This module now introduces something called inference. Before we begin linking probability to statistical inference, let's look at how the remainder of this course relates to the big picture of statistics. Recall that we start a statistical investigation with a research question. The investigation proceeds with the following steps. First, produce data. Determine what to measure, then collect the data. Types of statistical studies and producing data. Then we explore the data. So here's the producing data start, first thing we do. And then we explore the data, analyze and summarize the data, summarizing data graphically and numerically. We also examine relationships, quantitative data, nonlinear models, relationships and categorical data with introduction to probability. We saw all that before. And then once we're done exploring data analysis, we draw a conclusion. Use the data, probability, and statistical inference to draw a conclusion about the population. Relationships and categorical data with intro to probability, we've seen that. Probability and probability distributions, we've seen that also. Linking probability to statistical inference, inference for one proportion, inference for two proportions, inference for means, chi-square tests. Okay, that's a lot of things. Some of those we haven't done yet, but we will get there. In the big picture of statistics, we are about to start the last step called inference. We use data from a sample to infer something about the population in this and upcoming modules. Inference is based on probability. Okay, we'll zoom down now. So for example, at the end of April 2005, ABC News and the Washington Post conducted a poll to determine the percentage of US adults who support the death penalty. I think we've seen this one before. A research question might ask, what percentage of US adults support the death penalty? So these would be our steps in the statistical investigation. First, let's produce data, determine what to measure, then collect the data. The poll selected 1,082 US adults at random. Each adult answered the question, do you favor or oppose the death penalty for a person convicted of murder? Once we collect the data, then we will, step 2, explore the data. Analyze and summarize it. In this sample, 65% favored the death penalty. But I believe that 65% wasn't 65% of the entire population, but we took a sample, if I remember right. Number 3, draw a conclusion. Use the data, probability, and statistical inference to draw a conclusion about the population. Yeah, so even though we polled a smaller number, it wasn't every single US adult, but just assuming that if we took a pretty random sample, it was actually random, and we polled, then that percentage of people that favored death penalty in that small sample size probably is pretty similar to the overall population's percentage. Our goal is to determine the percentage of the US adult population that supports the death penalty. We know that different samples give different results. What are the chances that a sample reflects the opinions of the population within 3%? So because it was just a sample, like we said, 65% of the people in the sample favored the death penalty, but maybe it's not that exact percentage when we look at the overall population. Well, how would we know, or how can we be super sure that that's pretty close to the overall population's percentage within 3%? So something that would mean, 65% minus 3%, and then 65% plus 3%, I guess, is what we're thinking. So 62%, somewhere between 62% and 68%. That's what they mean by within 3%, correct. Probability describes the likelihood that a sample is this accurate, so we can say with 95% confidence that between, like we said, 62% and 68% of the population favor the death penalty. Let's see. And I think that looks good.